The October energetics are not just mere moments away, but have already begun. And from what I've been shown, will shake up the planet's frequency base to ensure our evolution. We are most certainly moving to higher ground, so our ascension path is on track. However, we have time splits and cycles that we must tend to carefully, along with chaotic nodes and spiraling frequencies that we need to push through. So creating from intention and learning to find our true authentic purpose will be critical in the next movement of change. I liken the energetics to something that you might have seen in the Matrix movies or in maybe an Indiana Jones franchise, where laser beam traps have been set up around a room to be triggered if you were to kind of cross them and try and steal someone's treasures, so to speak. Now, the biggest difference, though, is that we are connected somewhat to the laser beam and have entangled ourselves within it. Not the best place to be, but it will teach us how to bend and navigate with our senses in such a way that our victory will be quite extraordinary. And yes, we may be left scratching our heads and saying to ourselves, did I just do that? Or how did I not see or know that before now? Now, there will be some really big surprises along the way. However, even within the tension and the chaos, there will be joy-filled moments of understanding and a huge leap of consciousness, and our feelings of compassion will take the lead. Hi everyone, my name is Tam. I'm an energy intuitive and have been helping people heal around the world for over 20 years. Today I'm really excited to share some empowering information that will support your wellness journey and help you raise your vibrational frequency. I will give you an update on where we are at from a planetary perspective and touch upon how to overcome low or negative frequencies that might be headed our way. If you are just joining us for the first time, this is part 3 of our Fall 2024 Energy Update series and our discussion on building up our personal health preparedness kit. Now, if you haven't watched part 1 and 2 from September, please pause the video. You'll probably want to do so now because it will help you understand what I'm discussing in today's video, and it will give you the initial foundations of what we're building here and why. Now, for those of you who are caught up and you're ready to continue, make sure you have a pen and paper on hand if you want to take some notes, or get your computers ready for a little typing in case you're inspired to jot a few things down. I do plan to compile everything I've discussed in the video series into a downloadable PDF for you. However, with my schedule right now, I'm truly unsure when that might be, so hang in there with me, please. I will make sure to let you know when have that ready to go, and of course, I'll have it available for anyone who might want a printable copy. Okay, so to do a quick recap. In part 1, we began to build our health preparedness kit, and what I'm calling our prep kit, with the critical foundations of how to help prepare our physical, mental, and emotional bodies for the things that we may be encountering in the coming weeks and months ahead. Now, let me reiterate here that this is not to prepare anything out of fear. This is a high consciousness-based prep kit to help you understand your own power, and that by knowing some of the basic tools that you already have access to, most of them being absolutely free, you can support yourself and your family during the potential challenges that are coming ahead. Therefore, there will not only be no need for fear, but you will be able to help teach this to your friends and your neighbors if and when the time comes and they need some additional guidance. Now, I always like to remind everyone that if this resonates with you, that's really great. But if it doesn't, that's perfectly okay too. I am not here to convince anyone of anything. I am only here to help support those who are guided to listen and share what really has been shared with me. And all of us here, honestly, are here for different experiences and have our own unique journey to learn from, even with everything going on around us. So, what message is meant for one may not actually be meant for all. So please use your discernment and only keep what feels right for you. In this week's video, I'm going to talk about high-frequency foods and how bringing them into your daily life might be incredibly important for your health and your well-being. But because we have so much energy hitting us out of the gate as we enter into October, I want to speak to the vibrational frequencies first. Then I'll move into part 3 of our prep kit so you can determine how you can plan ahead for meals or how you might choose certain foods over others when you have to make choices of what types of things that you will eat moving forward. Okay, so let's discuss the frequencies coming in for October. First, let's talk briefly about energetic frequencies as a general rule, because when I ask for information regarding what will be affecting us, there are high frequencies that are natural and organic, and then there are low frequencies that, for the most part, have been manipulated and what I would consider man-made and artificially created to make things very challenging for us. This is pretty self-explanatory, but to ensure that there's no confusion, the organic, natural energetics are from what one might call God, source, creator, or the natural universal structure of life. Then, of course, the opposite of that would be unnatural or manipulated. And quite a bit of what we've been dealing with, as many of you probably have guessed, for at least around, I will say, the past 50 years or so, we've been dealing with the unnatural and manipulated. Now, from my personal understanding, from what my guides have been telling me, is that experiments in energy interference started much, much earlier than even that. But the escalation around the 1970s pushed us into a turbo boost of sorts that has kind of caused a great deal of the issues that we're experiencing today. Now, if you are listening to this October energy update now, my guess will be that you might already be aware of this or have at least heard it mentioned somewhere on someone else's channel. But if you are new and you're trying your best to kind of just make sense of things at the moment, I won't necessarily recommend that you start searching the net to get the specifics unless you are truly inspired to do so. I'm all for getting as many facts as you can because I think that's important and kind of digging into understanding how we got here and so on. Education is key and we should never be afraid of that. But the multitude of rabbit holes that you will possibly find, or actually you will find, might be so distracting and overwhelming that you may actually forget why you started researching in the first place. And that's part of the challenge that we will be running into coming up really in the few short weeks or maybe sooner, because distractions are getting ready to be kind of thrown into the world like we've never seen before. Okay, so be aware of that. But what I do want to tell you, with that being said, is that there really is quite a bit of information that you can absolutely still find on the internet. And if it is important to you, then please do your research. My only suggestion would be to just remind yourself, make a sticky note, put in a note somewhere, that no matter what you find, that you and your family should be the most important things in your life right now. Don't let anything or anyone take you away from that focus. How we got here won't even matter in the coming days, because it's the fact that we are here and that we have each other to lean on as we begin to power up and move through the manipulated energetics in order to get to the organic, natural state of the frequencies that will be there awaiting our arrival. Okay, so that's a lot to say, but what does that actually mean? Well, as I mentioned earlier, October is bringing in some intense vibrational frequencies. Some are astrologically driven, some are from our Creator, some are very much manipulated and created with ill intent. The manipulated frequencies tend to be the ones that bring in simple things like bad weather, but these low frequencies have also been entangled with our human biofields through the electromagnetic grid that we use on a daily basis, like computers, cell phones, cell towers, TVs, and so on. Now, as I mentioned in my recent updates, our lower body has been cut off from the Earth's frequencies with the shoes that we wear, and the pineal gland in our head has been turned off and or manipulated. A lot of people will say it's crystallized, which is true. So we cannot actually reach the higher natural frequencies as well, or at least both have been minimized. Okay, so we'll look at it that way because some people have been able to start to reconnect. So again, we talked about that already in a previous video, so I won't go too far into it right now. But what has happened here is it makes it incredibly challenging for us to connect with our natural state of being, which basically means that we're caught in the middle of an electronic man-made grid. And yes, they have used AI and outsiders, which I will say in air quotes, to help with that. But it was made to keep us from accessing our natural state of being, to keep us from knowing our natural gifts, and to keep us from our sovereignty, our connection to Source, God, Creator, and the universe. You can pick and choose the name that you like. Insert whatever feels right for you in that space. So I remind you of that because the purpose of these videos is to help bring you information on how you can reconnect to your own divinity, your authentic natural state of being, and understand that you are your own healer, and that you, and we, of course, are empowered with gifts that you may have not been able to understand, uncover, or even identify with, and yet will be very much needed in the days to come. Because of the layers of electromagnetics that have been kind of woven into the grid, and yes, if you want to call it the matrix, you can, but this grid, as I mentioned in prior videos, has a gray, smoky layer to it that has been affecting what we see and what we hear, and then pretty much all of our senses. There appears to be manipulations and layers of things like voice of God tech that has even been wired in to try and confuse any of us that are seers or energy workers, intuitives, channelers. If you pray, the voices you hear, like all of these things, remote viewers even, and so on. So we have all had to be very, very careful in how we discuss and perceive things and triple check on the information that is coming through. We have to check the radio dial, so to speak, to ensure we've gotten through the 4D minefield and the traps that have been kind of set up to hang us up or steer us into another dimensional timeline. But when we get through, the energy is incredibly different and very, very palpable. It comes from a high consciousness vibration that is fueled by love, positivity, and again, empowerment. Something that the cloaking devices and low frequency beings have yet to truly master. As an example, if someone is paying close attention, when someone tells you things like, I love you, you will feel it through your entire being if the words and meaning is of truth and is real. If someone else tells you the same thing, they can use exact same words, and even if they are the world's best actor, you may want to believe it for a moment, but if you pay close attention and you're using your senses correctly, and you're going to pay attention to how your body responds, you will know if it is not real, no matter how great they play that part. Now, in order to truly understand this, though, You need to be in a high frequency to be able to recognize it. Otherwise, yes, we can certainly be manipulated if we're coming from a three-dimensional lower vibration. So what's the difference, right? In 3D, this is a simple way of putting it, but in 3D, we are innocent and uneducated. So we don't quite have an understanding of how to perceive things. But as we move into the fourth dimension, in order to get to the fifth, which is where we're going through now, we are transitioning through our learning experiences and can still be easily tricked. If we tune into the fifth dimension, however, and we use our feeling world, an internal sensory GPS system, if you will, we become wise and understand what love should truly feel like. Hence, we can then, of course, discern and determine the intentions of the person claiming that they love you. Now, I hope this kind of makes sense. Sometimes there are not words in the human language that can easily describe such things until one truly experiences them. But the key information here is that we need to pay closer attention to what people say or do in order to assess the information coming in. We need to ask if it resonates with us in our body or not. It's all about intentions. And we are about to come face to face with ourselves in the coming months as we navigate how to reach through that fourth dimension, which is currently holding the manipulated energetics that are false and chaotic, in order to get to the higher dimensions that are organic and naturally created from Source and the universe. Another way to think of it might be to visualize maybe just changing a TV channel or a radio dial. 4D is the in-between station that you might get when you go to actually change the channel. You might get something like white noise or like a white screen. Now, if you're old enough to remember the older TVs before all the smart TVs came in to play, you'll remember that white noise. You had a white snowy screen when you changed the channel, and you saw the in-between channels that really weren't connected to a specific frequency. But you also might get the bleed through of another channel as you were flipping the channel, right? So as you're flipping the dial, you might see the snow, but there might be a bleed through of another station coming through that's very light because you're close enough to the frequency. You're just not quite there to get a clear picture. The great news is that the higher teams, our higher selves, if you will, and our Creator are certainly well aware of this and have put things into place so we can reach those frequencies with a little bit of effort. There are even vibrational streams and holes in the false matrix to help us get through even quicker. We just need to be aware of how to magnetize them to us or us to them. And this is why building up our personal vibrations are truly important at this particular time. The higher we go, the lower energies cannot reach us, as I've noted before. And the higher we go, we are magnetized to the frequencies in that energy belt, if you will. And this is what October is about. We have an influx of frequencies from all sides coming in that we will need to kind of jump over and duck through in order to get to the other side of the room, so to speak. Because once we get into November, we will be experiencing an implosion of sorts and a breaking apart of the matrix. And while this can be exciting news, it may mean pushing through the fourth dimensional chaos, though. And while there is not a set timeline to this specifically, it may bring to the surface a lot of confusion and quite a bit of fear in regards to what's been stored. I want to say this carefully, what's been stored in the manipulated 4D space. Okay, so think of the 4D space as the cloud where the 3D world kind of drops all of its junk into. And it's kind of the place that you kind of have to push through in order to get to, again, the other side into the fifth dimension. The only way to get there is through, and that's part of what we're dealing with right now. And depending on how much is unveiled between now and the end of December, we'll actually chart that course that we will undertake in 2025, where the most significant change will begin to happen. From a personal perspective, individuals will be going through a multitude of changes as soon as we get to the first 40-hour window of the solar eclipse that's happening on October the 2nd, which also happens to be the new moon on the same day. Now, we've already started editing out people, places, and things that happens during eclipse season that no longer serves us as we move forward into the new energy. So as we kind of let go, what many of you will find is that you are recalibrating and rewiring your life now in order to make room for new relationships and environments that will be part of the new build out in the upcoming next phase. So the new moon energy is about bringing more in for us. But at the same time, if we haven't moved things out by then, we actually have to get some things completed, I guess would be the easiest way to put it. We literally have to focus on that in the next couple of weeks. This will become obvious to many of you, so it shouldn't need too much explaining, but for those holding on too tight, let's just say there's something that you have not been willing to change or let go of, but you know that you need to. It might become very uncomfortable. Now, part of this reason has to do with the fact that we are also stepping up the raising of consciousness across the planet to include becoming authentic. Now, this will become an increasingly important theme that people will be faced with while we embark upon the changes through the end of the year. Now, we are now on an accelerated path, and the unveiling of secrets and global change is truly just moments away. So while we may want to hear and see what's going on around us, that means we need to match the energetics and become open to allowing others to see and hear us as well. And this is an important part of our healing path. So we cannot ask for something that we are not willing to be part of in return. Now, if you have skeletons in the closet, so to speak, or are hiding something you don't want others to know about, I suggest you find a way to embrace those pieces of yourself and willingly talk about them with those most important to you. Now, there's a freedom and forgiveness within this energetic, and while I understand that they might be uncomfortable in the beginning, it may not be quite as bad as some might think. Remember that all of us will be going through this, so our friends and loved ones might be coming to you with the same or similar stories and updates that they need to share. So even though maybe you think that you don't have anything hidden and you're perfectly fine, and maybe you're a very open person, but if someone's coming to you to say, hey, I need to tell you something that maybe I've been hiding from you, you'll know why. Okay? Now, this will give everyone a chance to start purifying their vibrational biofields quickly and raise them to a much higher frequency by releasing old baggage that has become too heavy to hold on to during this time of shift. Becoming authentic means opening your heart. And we do have frequency gifts coming in during this time to help the heart open in a way that is directly connected to the divine essence of our soul self. Now, these energy gifts are here because we will need to rely on them to navigate all of the new people, places, and things coming in that we will connect with to help each other grow. In addition, these vibrations will support us in looking at our lives through the lens of our own divine truth, our soul truth, embracing the good, the bad, and the ugly of who we've been, where we are now, and of course, who we are becoming. As Merriam-Webster defines it, being authentic means being true to one's own personality, spirit, and character. Now, it's not an excuse to lose your manners or become chaotic and rude, but it is an amazing opportunity to look deep within yourself for the answers that you might be seeking, to stop hiding, to release things like self-doubt and unworthiness. Losing excuses that you thought might define you only helps you embrace your empowerment and care for yourself as well as others. And as we grow into higher versions of ourselves, we lift others up with us and find ways to work together, which in essence pulls up our entire civilization through the human spirit, where true evolution is recognized. It starts with each of us as individuals, but elevates us to heights that we have never seen before as a collective. Many around the world will begin to question reality over the next 12 months, but this definitely increases before the end of this year. Now, I'm sure many of you listening to this already have, which might be why you're here right now, because you've already questioned reality. But for those who have chosen to keep their eyes closed over the past several years, they will begin to open their eyes and question everything around them. Now, that does not necessarily mean it's a full wake-up call for a lot of people, but it does mean that they are seeing things differently. Much of it will revolve around health. And this is why, of course, we're doing this video series right now. But also it's about the potentials that we may see if a second pandemic gets rolled out. However, I am being shown that the natural organic energies will help break down the false and manipulated grid. And when that happens, there will appear to be timeline bleeds coming through. So more and more people might begin to believe in things like the Mandela effect, because structures and storylines will noticeably change. And it will become more obvious that we're living in a fractal space with some sort of programmed reality. Now, to give you a quick example of what I mean by that, I've actually been seeing this already over the past couple of months. I would take my dog out every morning for his usual 7 a.m. walk. And along the way, there are 3 dog bin stations that are kind of anchored into the ground. Most of them are anchored with cement, but there's a few that are just deep into the ground. Now, every other day for about a week, I noticed that these stations were in different areas on our walk. So if someone had truly moved them, there would be kind of new grass, or maybe there'd be new cement or hole, kind of where one was, kind of prior to the move. So, but they were clearly untouched and solidly deep into the ground as if they had been there for years. And there were trees and even plant life around each that were as different as the dog stations themselves. It was truly palpable, and I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing, even though I know this stuff, because it was literally in my backyard. It's, a few steps down from where I'm at. So it was a very palpable change that came with a similar feel, but noticeable timeline shift. Now, what's happening is very similar to what I mentioned earlier regarding how we changed the channel on the TV. So I want you to think of it like this. This might actually be a better analogy. All right, you're watching a movie on your main TV in the main large screen, but you decide to add a different channel with a smaller screen in the upper right-hand corner while you're watching the main screen. So you're watching one show, your main focus, whatever movie you turned on, right? Your main focus of entertainment. And then you're just switching your focus to the upper right where you have a little screen to see what's playing on the other channel. So a lot of people do that, right? Now the main movie is still playing, so that's never changed. But your focus now is on the other movie, and you're kind of going back and forth to watch it. Both are playing at the same time, and even on the same screen. But where you choose to focus your attention is what's actually going to feed the information to your brain. Both are very, very real. And this will be important to note as we move between the realities of 3D, 4D, and into 5D, because where your attention goes is where you are. So you will need to decide which movie you choose to engage with and reside in. So you are the observer. You have the choice of where you place your attention. So you need to determine, are you going to watch the movie about war and political upheaval, which is very real and very in the moment, if you want it to be? Again, it's where you focus your attention. Or are you going to focus your attention on the dramatic unfolding story of the human potential sweeping a civilization in their quest to rebuild planet Earth? That said, which one do you think brings the most empowerment and the highest frequency into your personal world? Okay, so this brings the focus back to our health and healing, because when we begin to know these things a bit better, then we can contemplate that if you are ill in one reality, you can be healthy in another. And so understanding these concepts can help you power up your divine blueprint and once again, raise your frequency. Now, what does all of this mean in regard to what we may see in October and through the end of the year? Well, I'm being shown that there are events of probability that might be sudden with a similar feel of what we recently went through a few years ago. Many researchers, astrologers, and channelers out there have been talking about this as the start of a revolution, but I see it as our evolution because it's the beginning of the last set of catalysts that transforms us. Just like the last one that woke up many people, we are poised for another round of something that will continue to push the alarm clocks for those that are still in slumber mode. Since we know now that our bodies are now being used as an energy unit, we need to be aware and wise on how to mitigate the issues now and understand how to prepare for what's coming our way by embracing the gifts that we have been given and learn how to heal ourselves. While some of the old standards will help, like vitamin C, our health regime will need to change, hence why I'm actually making this video series, and why we need to rely on ourselves to keep our bodies strong and in high frequency. In our next video, we will certainly go over the new supplements that might be crucial for you to have on hand. But I want to start with all of the high frequency foods first, because you're going to have to eat. So, making wise choices and using food as medicine might be much more important now than it has been ever before. So, let's talk about high vibrational foods, what they are, and what are their health benefits. High vibrational frequency foods are believed to support overall health and well-being by providing the body with vital energy. Okay? You might have come across this before, but if not, and it's new to you, the important thing to note is that these types of foods are typically whole, natural, unprocessed, and they contain a high level of nutrients and what many will call life force energy. And that's really what we're after right now. It's the life force energy. That is your high frequency food. Now, while scientific measurement of food frequencies is not standardized, many holistic practitioners and natural researchers have attempted to quantify the vibrational qualities of various foods. So they have ways to measure food just like they do other frequencies that we've talked about up until now. So I'm going to post on the screen here a list of about 20, probably 22 of the high vibrational foods that we are aware of. There are more, but these would be some of your highest that have been measured that we are truly aware of and probably eat. I would say, more than others, I guess, is probably a good way to say it. And I've included the frequency measurements so you can kind of understand why they are rated the way they're rated and why it's important that you look at the rating at the moment based on what you're going to choose to eat. Because some things you're not going to like and you don't normally eat them anyway, so you're not even going to bother. But there are many that you might just go, you know what, I have enough cash today to purchase blueberries, or maybe I can get a coconut. Okay, so you're going to go, well, coconut's at 290 hertz or megahertz, so blueberries are resonating at 330. Maybe I'll get the blueberries today instead. So it's all of those things, right? It makes a difference. But if you kind of have an idea of what things look like, it'll make it easier to make your choices. These high vibrational foods are believed to offer numerous health benefits. So the standards are things like antioxidant production. So many of these foods, such as blueberries, goji berries, and pomegranates, are rich in things like antioxidants. Antioxidants help protect the body from free radical damage, which can contribute to various chronic diseases and accelerate aging. They're nutrient dense, right? So nutrient density means a high vibrational food would typically be packed with essential vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. For example, kale and spinach are excellent sources of vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K, as well as things like iron and calcium. These are going to be anti-inflammatories. Foods like turmeric, ginger, and garlic have potent anti-inflammatory properties, reducing inflammation in the body, which can help prevent things like chronic disease and support overall health. Then, of course, many of these are going to support your digestion too, such as chia seeds and coconut, because they're rich in fiber. And fiber supports your digestive health by promoting regular bowel movements and feeding beneficial gut bacteria. Most of these are also going to help give you an energy boost. So if you're looking at things like spirulina and wheatgrass, those are known for their energizing properties. They can help improve your vitality and combat fatigue. Then there's immune support foods like citrus. So you have things like lemons as well as garlic and ginger, and they are known for immune boosting properties. They can help the body fight off infections and maintain overall health. Many high vibrational foods will also support mental clarity, such as blueberries and green tea. They have been associated with improved cognitive function and mental clarity. I do have a little side note with green tea. Teas do tend to have molds, so I like to pull that off. I do drink a little bit of green tea every once in a while, but I am cautious of that, even though it does rank really high. So it matters where you get your green tea, how you store your green tea, and the quality of the green tea. So just be aware of that. Now, other foods like spirulina, chlorella, leafy greens can actually support the body's natural detoxification process, helping to eliminate harmful toxins. That's a detox food. Now, there is, for some of you, you may or may not know this, there is some controversy around chlorella. I'm not going to go into that here. I'm keeping it on the list because there are doctors and other researchers who do like it. But some of the research I have done and some of the information I have been given is that chlorella is not exactly what we think it is. And so I've kept that off of my table, so to speak. So I'm just going to say that for now. You can do some research yourself and see what you feel is best for you. Now, alkalizing effects. Many high vibrational foods definitely have an alkalizing effect on the body, which is important. This can actually help maintain the proper pH balance and overall health. So think about those things, especially if you tend to be highly acidic. I would definitely look at these to help alkalize the body. The main thing that I love about some of these vibrational foods is that they also enhance your spiritual well-being. Now, some people will believe this, some people may not. That's perfectly okay. Everything that I have understood is that when you consume that high vibrational food, it actually can enhance your spiritual awareness and promote a sense of connection with the universe. There's many reasons to that. Again, that could be a whole show in itself. But if you incorporate those into your diet, it can just be an additional powerful way to support your overall health and well-being. Something to think about, right? The cleaner the food, the cleaner the mind, the cleaner the body. What begins to happen is these high-frequency foods start reconnecting all of your dots and breaking through all of these things we've been talking about over the past a few videos here. So you can take that how you want to take it. It's not a religious thing. It's just your spiritual well-being of your connection to the universe and source in itself. Now remember that the key to a healthy diet is variety and balance. Aim to include a wide range of colorful fruits, vegetables, herbs, plant-based foods as you can into your meals to maximize all of the benefits of the foods that you're eating. Now, before I go on, I want to quickly talk about blueberries. Now, blueberries, as you will see on this chart, were measured at 330 megahertz. Now, this is a high number and stands all on its own, but I want to mention that I believe that this was a measurement of organic blueberries. My higher team has told me that anything that grows in the wild, like wild blueberries or wild raspberries, for instance, will measure much, much higher. So I always suggest using wild fruit instead, if you can get it. It's not easily purchased here in the United States, but you might be able to get it in other countries. You can easily find frozen wild blueberries. Sometimes, every once in a while, I'll see a frozen wild raspberry, but usually they're wild blueberries. So they would actually be a better choice, believe it or not, than an organic version. Even if you had to choose between a fresh version and a frozen, I would still choose a wild frozen blueberry over an organic fresh one, if that makes sense. I usually do suggest that you always go for organic, though, before you reach for something conventional. And I understand that organic isn't really organic any longer. Again, another conversation. A good one, but definitely another conversation. And part of that reason, if you're new to that conversation, is that it's all about the crops that have been dusted with chemicals. Truly, even though the farmer has tried their best to keep everything organic from their side, we just have too much coming down from the skies right now. So technically, they've been dusted with chemicals in some form or fashion. However, remember that we are discussing frequency here, and higher frequencies are still retained in the intentional seed that it comes from. Has it been tainted by a lower vibrational chemical? Yes, and seeds can still be affected, but the intentions cannot be altered. So I'm being told that wild remains the highest, organics rank next best, and conventional will be the last choice that we should make. Now, that said, there are exceptions. So if you know the farmer that you're purchasing from, you don't have any other option, or the price of organics is just too high in your area, because it could be that you just can't get them, then go with what you feel you can't. That's obviously, you're better to have it than to not have it at this point. Now, the one thing that you can do to help shift the food energetics, which quite frankly we should do anyway, is bless your food in some form. This is not a religious thing. Again, this is just a high frequency, high consciousness thing. When we engage with intention and we are grateful for the sustenance, we can actually shift the frequency just like we do when we use hands-on healing to help a person get healthy. So I'll give you an example. I think I've mentioned this before, but when I work with my clients during a healing session, I get into their energetic field and I hold the space for the healing to occur. I'm acting as a conduit. I'm not doing the healing, but I'm acting as a conduit for universal energy to move through me to allow the tuning up and the rewiring to take place. This is where the body begins to engage its own immune system and goes into healing mode. Now, the food that we ingest acts in a similar manner. So just by placing your hands a few inches above your food and invoking the light and divine energy from Source, God, and the universe, etc., you're putting back the intentions and the love that would have been activated in the pure seed of the food that connects with earth energetics to grow life. In other words, you are rewiring and rebalancing the life force in that food before you bring it into your body. You can also do this with water and truly most anything in your environment. If this is something that you want to try, here's a short decree that I've used when I'm practicing intentions and mindfulness with eating foods that I want to adjust in frequency. Now, you can say this out loud or in your head or just write something new. You don't have to use this. You could write your own that includes your intentions. So what you want to do is you just place your hands a few inches above your food and you visualize light or a violet flame coming from the middle of your palms. And you say something like, I am the violet fire blazing in, through, and around my food and drink, transmuting all negative thoughts, energies, and impurities within its vital essence. I raise its vibration into its original organic form and am grateful for its sustenance. Now again, you can make this what you want to make this. It's just your intention is being placed into the food that you're about to eat, and it will help rebalance and reconnect the life force of that food. Now, once you do this a few times and you're used to it, you can easily just wave your hands over your food because you've built up your intentional habit. And you don't really need to say anything because your body's already going into the mode naturally that you're just waving your hand over your food, and you're going to trust that you know that you have the power to transmute anything with your hands. And more than likely, you will even begin to feel your hands get warm or hot, or you'll actually feel the energy coming off of them. And I can tell you, in the 20 years that I've been practicing energy medicine, all I have to do is think about using my hands to heal. And they actually turn on automatically and start to get very, very warm and very hot. So even now, because I'm talking about this and I'm telling you about some of these experiences, my hands are incredibly hot right now, and it's a different temperature than the rest of my body. It's just something that happens to me and a lot of people who do energy work, just because you are turning on and powering up your system to heal or to help heal and be that conduit. So I actually have to find ways to turn them off, to turn down the heat, so to speak, because they automatically just turn on. But you will find this for yourself, and you'll be able to kind of learn through it and use that to help you, again, heal not only yourself, but others as well as we move more into these kinds of practices into our future. Now, I know this might be foreign to many of you or sound completely ridiculous, very strange, but I promise you that when you begin to realize the internal power that you actually have within you, the other things we've discussed, everything is going to start to make sense. You're actually going to be amazed at how your own vibrational biofield changes, and all of this will actually begin to feel quite natural and very, very normal to you. Now, while I couldn't find measurements for spices specifically, I do want to give you a list of herbs and spices that are considered to be high-frequency foods. Here's the initial list of standard spices that we might use on a daily basis in the kitchen. So things like cinnamon, turmeric, garlic, you're going to see cayenne pepper, oregano. The list you can see is, again, a general one. I mean, there are more for sure. But even though I don't have specific frequency measurements on these, the things we do know, and this is what I want to share with you, is that as a general rule, we have measured herbs and things like that, they have higher frequencies than dry herbs if you're looking at fresh. So while we don't have specific frequency measurements for these herbs and spices, since they're not provided, I don't have all of that detail. But what I do know is that as a general rule, fresh herbs generally have much higher frequencies than dried herbs. So fresh herbs range from 20 to 27 megahertz, while dry herbs range from 12 to 22 megahertz. So you still have these, again, a little bit higher in frequency. What's interesting, though, is when you put them into an essential oil form, which all of the ones listed also come in an essential oil form, and I will discuss this in the next video. I don't want to discuss it today because it's just too much info, but you might choose to actually switch and start using high frequency liquid-based essential oils. You can also use those in cooking and baking and that kind of thing. But here's why. The essential oils that are derived from these herbs and spices actually tend to have the highest measured frequencies among any of the natural substances. So for example, I'll just use rose oil, but rose oil can reach up to 320 megahertz. So something like that, as opposed to how that rose would measure in its fresh form or even a dried form, is considerably different. Okay, so again, I'll go into this in the next video, but this is something to consider because when you're using herbs and spices, if you want to start to boost more of the high frequencies, you can switch those out, and instead of peppermint, you might use peppermint oil. Instead of fennel, you might choose to use fennel oil. Again, there are different ways to do this. It just depends on everything else that you're doing, but the frequencies get into very, very high numbers when you start to shift gears in how you're actually using them and how they're put together for you. The one thing about these particular herbs and spices that are listed above is that they are considered high vibrational because of the potency in their healing properties in general. So even though we don't have a measurement, we do know that they are absolutely medicinal properties to help heal the human body. Things like oregano oil, you've probably heard of, but oregano acts very similar to an antibiotic. So when you get them in the right dose and in the right form, you don't want a pharmaceutical antibiotic. You can go to a natural one, which again would be the oregano oil. So again, we'll talk about that in the future, but right now, be aware because it could make a difference in your everyday foods that you eat and how you cook. So incorporating a variety of these herbs and spices into your diet can potentially raise your overall energetic vibration and, of course, support your overall health. Now remember that most important factors for maintaining a high vibrational energy are consuming fresh, organic, minimally processed foods, including a variety of fruits and vegetables and herbs in your diet. So once you look through these lists, you can personalize them a bit and shop for the ones that you like the best. I didn't list this above, but I would highly recommend for everyone to think about growing sprouts. Sprouts are jam-packed with high nutrients, very, very, very nutrient-dense properties. So if you can't quite grow anything else at all, this should be your go-to. You're going to see things like broccoli sprouts here on the slide, alfalfa sprouts, radish sprouts, mung bean sprouts, cabbage sprouts. They are so full of vitamins that even if you just had a handful for the day, you would have everything you needed. So I would look into that. I've listed all their health benefits and properties. You can take a look. I'll keep the slide up and include it at the end of the video here, because at the end, since this is really one of the easiest things you can do in your kitchen, at the end of the video, I'm going to attach a step-by-step guide to help you get started. So don't forget to check that out before you leave if you're inspired to learn how to grow sprouts at home. Additionally, since we don't know exactly what the surprises will look like in the coming months that we're going to have to face. I have been reminded to suggest growing your own food whenever you can. I've been shown that food will be somewhat available, but nothing like what we've been used to, for a while anyway. So if you do have a yard or any outdoor space, make room for veggies or fruit trees if you can. Now, if you're in an apartment or a condo, I would suggest looking into an indoor tabletop hydroponic grow system, or possibly utilize your patio or your deck for some of the grow pots. Those hydroponic tabletop systems are pretty good. They can be a little tricky to learn how to use. I've got 2 of them. I had success in the beginning, and then I kind of went through a period of time where I did not. So I'm learning too. But they are great, and you can grow some things indoors, and things like lettuce. To me, they're perfect for lettuce. So that might be something that we might need to pay attention to. But it depends on where you're at in the world. From what I'm seeing right now, at the moment, may start here in the US before it expands into other places. However, this will be something that is happening across the planet. So right now, again, do what you can as you can. Try the simple stuff first. If you have some dollars here and there, you can try some of the more expensive things. But for the most part, you can do a lot of these things, as I mentioned earlier, for very low to no costs. And the one thing I would really want to express here is that please, for those who can grow food and plan to do so, think about friends, neighbors, and all of the pets and animals. Most people will be completely caught off guard and will have no preparation at all. So especially during the first few weeks and maybe even into the next several months, it might be incredibly challenging if indeed the surprises at hand are more intense than we hope them to be. Yes, the internet might be down and some areas may lose power. But again, there is no fear here at all. But your knowledge or your support for the community in which you live may be critically needed at this time. And if you are lucky enough to have friends, family, and neighbors who do kind of have an inkling of what might be on the horizon, it could be really great to get together now and discuss who can grow what. And then you can share as a community. An example might be if you've got an orange tree and your neighbor grows lettuce, then you can kind of strike a deal to exchange some of those things, or let your neighbors and family or groups know that you will always have oranges for trade for other food during season, of course, right? So maybe you can't grow food, but maybe you're the best cook on the block. You might volunteer to do the cooking for those that can bring over some veggies for a soup pot and so on. We're going to have to work together, and this is really the key. Now, if you are kind of in the prepper community, you'll already be aware of these things and understand the importance of readiness. But please remember that most people won't, or they won't have the finances even to be able to buy a generator or extra food or water. And of course, I'm truly hopeful that we have the least amount of interference as possible. But the info coming through from our guides at the moment is that we at least need to prepare for the basics that are going to be very important. And these are the basics. When we are prepared, there is no panic. And we can just kick ourselves into high gear and take a deep breath and remember that we have the internal power to bust through this thing and move forward with positive thoughts, care, compassion, love, and being in service to help each other. And we must remember that whatever happens, this is only a temporary challenge. The next 12 months might be very bumpy, but our destination promises to become what we have all been waiting for and will bring in so many incredible changes for us, positive changes, beautiful changes. They will feel nothing short of miraculous, and we will rebuild our lives in ways unlike anything that we've ever seen before. It may not look that way at first, but if we just hold our focus on what we do want and know we have everything within us to heal and to move forward, we can hold a space for what life looks like on the other side of what's to come. I hope you've enjoyed the content in this video today and that it helps you understand that there are several things that you can do to empower the well-being of yourself and your family. If you are inspired, please like and share with your friends and subscribe to the channel that you might be viewing this on. Once again, I have shared this video with others who understand its importance, so supporting this channel is always appreciated. I am so grateful for each of you taking the time, wanting to listen at least to what all of our unseen friends are trying to help us with. I know this time on our planet is of incredibly great concern to many, and I want to reinforce the messages that I have been given, that as a collective, we will make it through this. And I just want to reiterate the importance of reminding each other to keep asking, how good can we have it? How good can it really get? Over the next several weeks and months and into 2026, we will get the answers and we will manifest them into form. And together, we will thrive. I'll see you next week.